School assemblies were boring as fuck. Apparently, on some days of the week, the headmaster cast multiple simulacrums of himself, so he could lecture multiple buildings worth of students all at once, on various topics nobody cared about, with maybe one or two things that were occasionally relevant. At least that's how Nika explained it to him, as they were escorted to a massive lecture hall by the teachers and prefects, who quickly put down any signs of dissent with extreme prejudice. Jack sat between Sephi and Chio, the enforced boy-girl-boy lineup working in their favour. The seats were uncomfortable, and it had taken an extra 15 minutes to herd the rest of the students in before the headmaster had even started droning on. Apparently these had sometimes lasted hours, pushing the rest of the school day right into the evening, and it certainly felt to Jack that this was how it was going to go.
And so, it is important to note the wise teachings of Professor Claus, that discipline is one of the cornerstones of—
"Kill me, please," Sephi whispered under her breath to Jack, out of earshot of the ever-watchful teachers, waiting to punish those students that fell out of line. Master Cull in particular seemed to relish roughly dragging students out of their seats to administer verbal beatings, with threats of physical ones should they ever so much as breathe wrong again. For her part, Mrs. Schlatt didn't seem to mind what the students did, provided it couldn't be seen, so Chio could talk away as much as she liked, though Jack obviously couldn't perceive her telepathy. Not yet, anyway.
Discipline and integrity, important to this institution.
According to Svati, the Gloom Cauldron was something to do with summoning. In that case, what was Tubaku planning to do with it?
An incident which brings great shame and horror upon our community.
Not Tubaku, Jack corrected himself. The hacker controlling the Dark Acolyte was still out there somewhere. The Mao cars were the only possible lead they had on them for now, and it was a shaky lead at best.
A whole 2 credits were stolen!
The headmaster was rambling on about a perceived theft of property from one of the prefects, and wanting the perpetrator to come forward and confess. Like that would ever happen.
And this theft will not go unpunished.
He gave Sephi a quick glance, and could see that she was likely using her cyberware to do a few things in the background. He was jealous as hell she had something to do to escape this mess, but made sure she didn't slump to the side too much.
But the worst crime is what we discovered this morning,
the headmaster yelled, the raised tone of voice suddenly waking everybody up, before most of them immediately went back to their species equivalent of daydreaming. Jack felt somewhat helpless. They had clues to follow, but nothing concrete that could directly lead them to their enemies, and those enemies were poised to strike at him. It could be any time, and any place. And his luck wouldn't last forever.
Yes! You heard me correctly, students! Excrement was discovered on Master Carl's desk earlier this morning by a patrolling drone.
Wait, what? That certainly got everyone's attention. Did a Zorn break in?
Not only this, the headmaster continued to yell, but a copious amount of urine and bile was discovered on the floor of the cafeteria kitchen on floor 38, with several drones having been destroyed by cutting weapons of some description. And there was a pungent smell of an unknown substance detected in several areas in this building, and several adjacent ones.
That got several giggles from a few of the students, who were quickly shushed by their teachers.
Using several drone images, we have compiled a picture of the likely perpetrator, and mark my words, anybody involved with these incidents shall be severely punished.
Jack's ass clenched as he saw the picture. Obscured by a lot of smoke and powder, wearing an obvious fake grey beard and moustache, was the unmistakable bright green skin, bulging bloodshot eyes, and twin samurai swords of Killer Kush. Uh-oh, Sephi whispered under her breath. Jack could only agree. The school was meant to be secure against outside threats. Thankfully, the assembly did not last for too long after that, the headmaster being all tuckered out by ranting and raving about the bounty hunter that had eluded them so far, clearly being more mad about the embarrassment of being unable to locate them than the intrusion itself. Killer Kush is either highly intelligent or completely retarded, Nika spoke up as soon as the group were alone after being dismissed. I thought the school would be safe. It is, Chio reassured them. If he tries anything during the day, he'll definitely be spotted and eliminated. It's on school grounds as well, so even if Jack dies, medical droids will try to resurrect him, Sephi added, before hurriedly adding, though I'll blast him before he tries. He'll with me for art class. And me, Nika groaned. Absolute waste of time. It is not, Sephi argued. I'm actually good at it. It turned out that both girls raised valid points about art class. While the passionate toadstool-like Mixzilla had warmly welcomed Jack to the class, they had immediately separated the class by gender into two groups, to work on a canvas together in a group exercise. While some students naturally switched off and left other members of the group to do the work, Jack appreciated the time he had to talk with some of the guys, especially Val's group, who had first tipped them off about the hacker over the weekend. Though he didn't mention the spawn of Nekton or the resulting encounter with Debaku at the Grove of the Oracle, their fight with the Red Legion aspirants certainly got a lot of attention. Those extremists have been making the Red Legion look bad for months. I'm glad most of them are gone now, at least. Val finally sighed, as he added a few brushes of colour to his section of the canvas. Zal and Krauk in particular, those who were good at bringing others into their sphere. They were always nasty to anyone that didn't join them. The most of the blame can be left at the foot of Master Carl for starting them down the path of extremism. I can only imagine how bad things are going to get now that he's lost his protégés. Maybe he'll try and pick up again with whoever survived, Krill added thoughtfully. Did Spartawolf really fight you to a standstill? Val asked Jack, who reluctantly nodded. Damn, what are you going to do about him? You should fuck his mum, Krish quipped, which got most of the table laughing before Mixzilla shushed them and told them to get on with their work. That was harsh, Krish, Krill pointed out despite his smile, trying to be serious. His mother's dead. He has a sister, though, Kisriff grinned. Dude. Honestly, I don't know what to do about him yet, Jack sighed. I've got even bigger threats to worry about right now, so as long as he doesn't attack me, I'm happy for us to just avoid one another for now. It'd be a different story if he had gone for my friends, though. Perhaps you should consider placing a bounty on Spartal, Krill mused to Jack. Spartal can't attack you again if he's taken out. You mean send assassins after him? Jack questioned, a little disturbed as he saw the others nod their heads in agreement. Come on, guys, I really can't see myself doing that. Who do you think I am? Hillary Clinton? Spartal did get a fat bounty from my grandfather for killing the Redeemer, Critch pointed out. Maybe he isn't desperate for cash right now and won't bother coming for you again? Yeah, I met your grandfather. Jack smiled as he remembered the insane encounter. Nice guy. He smuggled us out when the Redeemer came, though we probably could have taken him out. Probably, Critch agreed, though he would want to get any incidents out of the tea garden bloodlessly if he could. Bad for business if shootouts occur, and the clan elders have something big planned. Huh, neat, Jack answered simply. The group fell silent for a few moments, putting a few more touches to their work on the canvas, which now just seemed like a mismatched patchwork of different styles and influences. It was interesting to do, but Jack had no idea if this was what the teacher wanted or not. Oh yeah, that reminds me, Kisra spoke up. Jack, are you going to join the Deathball team? We had practice tonight after we lost last week. Jack answered, not having thought too much about it, though we knew that Nico and Sephi were on the team. I can do, but I have no idea how to play. The rules aren't too complicated. The hardest thing is trying to survive without getting injured, Val perked up. Krill, want to give him the rundown? In this version, 2 teams of 11 people try to get a ball through the opposing team's goal. Krill started, looking nervous. Okay, Jack answered. That sounded too easy, and he was waiting for the other shoe to drop. Is it more like football, where you only use your feet, or rugby, where it's a bit more physical? More like the second one, Krill replied seriously, and you can get the ball into the opposing goal however you like. Right, Jack acknowledged. The game didn't sound so bad after all. You'll just need to avoid getting killed by the spectators, or accidentally by the opposing team. Wait, what? Jack questioned. The only rule of Deathball is that players are not allowed to kill one another, Krill sighed. Though spectators are allowed to do whatever they want as long as they don't physically invade the field of play, though there's nothing stopping them invading if they're able to get past the referees. Jack's mouth just hung open as he took all of that in. That sounded insane. We have sports later today, Val grinned. Carl may run a game, and hopefully he won't immediately throw you in the deep end for wiping out his favourite students. Great, Jack deadpanned sarcastically. Boys, how are we getting on? Mixzilla cheerfully asked, as she came to examine their work thus far, though Jack wouldn't be surprised if they were just trying to get them to focus on it. Oh, very good. A very interesting contrast of different cultural styles. Jack, is that a vehicle of some kind? Could you tell me more about it? Jack began, unconfidently. I drew a tank on the battlefield. I think the contrasting natures of battle work well together. He really hoped that would work. Jack was terrible at drawing, but he was a self-proclaimed master of bullshitting. Most interesting, the teacher muttered to themselves before moving on. Carry on. While that didn't fill Jack with confidence, carry on they did, not talking as much with the rest of the group, but working on putting the canvas together until the class ended, at which the girls were awarded the higher mark. Chemistry class was next for Jack, who followed a cheerful Sephi to meet up with Chio, who shared that class with him. She had shown him a few of her graffiti designs she had added to the canvas and was very proud of them, and Jack had to admit they were pretty good, with the scritter promising to use them in future throps next time the group went out on a mission. Jack didn't know too much about graffiti and the culture of Murph, despite a few of his classmates getting into it, but he was glad Sephi was happy all the same. So, did Val persuade you to join the team yet? She excitedly asked him, as they pushed their way past a prefect checkpoint, with Jack getting a lot of suspicious looks from the Corrigan guards. Jack rolled his eyes. Oh yeah, come play the sport, where the bloody crowd is trying to kill you because this galaxy is totally batshit crazy. It's a hard sell for me. It's not that bad, Sephi giggled. Nico and I play for the team, and it's not like we can't handle ourselves. Well, I've kind of promised to tag along after school for practice, but it doesn't mean I've said yes, Jack cautioned, on seeing Sephi's face brighten up. Close enough. We'll make a deathballer out of you somehow, the scritter grinned. You know you don't need to fall for peer pressure, right? Chio messaged to Jack, as the teacher began splitting the students off into groups. Lieutenant Scraffo was apparently a former Red Legion demolitions expert that retired and took to teaching with gusto, being very keen on group practical exercises and demonstrations with things that smoked, popped, exploded, or otherwise did something interesting. The students sitting in the front row had been known to pick up the occasional singed fur. The cherry on top was that, according to Vanya, Lieutenant Scraffo and Master Carl apparently hated one another, despite coming from the same faction. I haven't said I'll join the team yet, Jack explained for what felt like the 10th time that day. It's bad enough I have bounty hunters after me. Adding an entire crowd of people to that doesn't sound smart. But if it's a way to make more friends, and Sephi and Nika are this enthusiastic about it, the least I can do is hear them out. I kinda owe them for tipping us off over the weekend about the hacker, Jack grinned slightly. Unless you want to take the spot instead? No thank you, she replied with raised eyebrows at the totally foolish suggestion. I'm good. Alright, let's put you four together. The Badger-like teacher grinned as she came up to them, waving a tail at Jack, Svarti, Chio and Vanya. As Jack sat down, he noticed Svartal sitting with another group of students, some of whom he recognized were some of the other Red Legion aspirants that had attacked them. Both boys stared each other down, ready to fight if one of them attacked. Oh, please don't do that, Sparty pleaded, giving both Jack and Spartal a pleading look as the teacher began handing out materials for the lesson. I think you two have a lot in common. No, we don't, Jack quietly growled, as he broke eye contact and looked at her. Why not? Sparty questioned nervously. He's an arsehole, Jack replied, looking Sparty in the eye. Can't you two just call a truce? Sparty desperately asked. Yes, you both started on the wrong foot, but it's not too late to... He stays away from me, I stay away from him, Jack firmly answered, as he looked at the sheet of instructions in front of him. And that goes for his scant few surviving Red Legion buddies as well. Svartal sat alone in the cafeteria, quickly consuming the series of fruits, vegetables, and dairy foods he had picked for himself, with a few slivers of meat he had been conditioning himself to eat. Though Nero were usually vegetarians, they were capable of eating limited meats, and Svartal sought to push himself in all ways. He never planned on fighting the human again, unless he had to, or the pay was worth the attempt. What would be the point? The Crimson Fangs and other extremist Red Legion groups were now dead or disbanded, so there was no more honor to get or approval to gain. And as far as the bounty went, it wasn't worth going for. The Redeemer, however, had been worth more than Spartal had expected, and he was pleasantly surprised with the amount. Just a little more and he could get him and his sister away from their father to somewhere safe. He had often encouraged her to go live with her friends. He knew Glenfarrix had room and had even offered to take Sparty in, but his sister had always refused to leave Spartal alone with their father, despite his encouragement for her to do it. He survived on his own somehow. A tray, delicately being placed on the table in front of him, stirred him from his thoughts, as a figure sat down. Spartal didn't bother looking up. The surviving Red Legion aspirants he had bailed out from the ambush had tried to talk to him several times already during the day, to try and get him to lead them in a new band, to which he had refused. The old him would have gladly accepted it as a stepping stone to a prosperous career in the Red Legion, but right now Spartaw didn't immediately know what it was he wanted, save improving the lot in life of him and his sister. He had spent more time today tucked away in the library and practicing his spells and swordplay when he could get away with it. His duel with the human had emboldened him to do better, and his newly found mentality had helped him begin to push his limits even further. "I told you already," Spartaw patiently called out to the newcomer. "I have no further wish to chase the Outsider's bounty, and I have no interest in leading a Red Legion group right now. Your best bet is to train together with the others and take on salvaging jobs." Another tray was placed to his right, followed by another on the left as two figures sat either side of him. Without looking, Spartaw acted casual and kept chewing, keeping his hands visible as he suddenly reached into his bag under the table with the tip of his tail, grabbing the grenades he kept hidden for situations like these. He had natural resistances to them, but it was still going to sting. A black fist thumped down on the table right in front of his tray. Spartaw stopped, and calmly raised his head to look right in the eyes of the giant drow it had belonged to standing next to him. With flat-top hair and a snarl of anger, it took all of Spartaw's willpower not to lose his cool at the sight of the hulking beast, forcefully getting his attention. "Oil!" Isadora Malkar snapped at the brute. The girl was just as casual-looking as Spartaw was, though that was likely due to her other two brothers either side of the mirror ready to act. Spartaw tensed himself as he prepared for anything. "Lady Malkar," Spartaw began, nodding his head in respect to the drow matriarch, and not betraying any hint of noticing the obvious, wicked facial scar that ran from her mouth, through part of her nose to her right eye. It was clear that she had used some rudimentary healing techniques to begin healing it, but it hadn't been a good job, and would need a recast. "Your presence honors me. To what do I owe the pleasure?" "My divination has revealed," she began slowly, "that you face the Outsider in single combat as part of an ambush led by yourself and several Red Legion aspirants." She didn't phrase that as a question, and that has Spartaw worried. The drow were not known for being forgiving to those that failed them, after all. More grenades were looped in his coils, and he answered with confidence. "You are correct, Lady Malkar," Spartaw hissed back, not wanting to volunteer too much information. "Though the efforts on the part of your compatriots were pitiful," the drow spat, "your efforts in particular were unusually outstanding. So I ran a background check on you, and I must say that my interest in you has piqued." "How so?" Spartaw asked with genuine curiosity. "As scion of Svarvali, hero of the Red Legion living in a slum," Isadora replied slowly, with a knowing smile. "Does your mother's service mean nothing to the forces of the Red Death?" She quickly got to the point on seeing Spartaw's glare. "You and your sister deserve better, and I can provide that to you." Spartaw's heart beat hard in his chest. Scraping as many credits as he could was one thing, but a patron? He and his sister's lot in life would skyrocket overnight. Not just get away from their brute of a father, but thrive doing it. "A very generous offer," Spartaw replied as calmly as he could. "What do you desire from me?" "Any and all information you have on the Outsider," the drow replied instantly. "I also know you are the one selling vials of his blood and other samples. I require 3, one of them being your largest sample. Finally, I wish to employ you and your sister's talents for the benefit of House Malkar." Spartaw could hardly believe it. She didn't even want him to kill the human. However, he had to keep his cool, and needed to make sure this was acceptable for them. "I have a few conditions if I am to work for you," Spartaw politely hissed. "Name your terms," Isadora smiled.